Good afternoon, Mr. Johnson.
Good afternoon,
thanks for your
sir.
time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Did you enjoy your summer in Greece?
Always, yes. It's a most beautiful country, a most wonderful people. We had the best. We always have a fantastic holiday.
I'm glad. As Prime Minister, you were a strong advocate of supporting Ukraine against Russia. How do you assess the situation today? Do you share the view that President Trump is not applying as much pressure on Vladimir Putin as he could?
Well, I think that Ukraine will win, and I think it's going to take, unfortunately, more time than it should take, because we're not doing enough at the moment. And
Mr. Trump is not doing enough?
Well, nobody is. And Mr. Trump, don't forget, has done a lot to continue the military supplies. He's the guy who actually was the first to give the Javelin anti-tank missiles to Ukraine before the Europeans gave anything, before the Democrats gave anything. Trump gave the anti-tank missiles. And today, if you look at the sanctions regime, for whatever reason, Trump has put secondary sanctions on India, which are very punitive, and nobody else has done the same. And if the rest of the world followed suit, it would make a big difference. So all I'm saying is...
You believe that was a smart move? Because there's a lot of criticism.
Yeah, everybody... But India is already trying to diversify its oil purchases, oil hydrocarbons buying away from Russia. And that's a good thing. And, everybody beats up on Trump. The Europeans love beating up on Trump, but they never have the guts to do some of the things that he does. I mean, for instance... why haven't we unfrozen the $300 billion worth of Russian assets currently in Europe, most of it in Belgium?
All right.
What's Europe doing? It's like, and I think that there was for most of this war, for 3.5 years almost, the average American taxpayer has been paying more in military support for Ukraine than the average European taxpayer. Seriously, it's about $220 each now.
I think EU contribution is higher than the US contribution.
Only recently, because the EU is finally the European countries generally are finally starting to pay more, or the balance is changing. But this is a European war, and Europe should be leading. And so I find it a bit irritating when Europeans just sort of say, Trump, Trump, Trump. I won't hide it from you. I also find it pretty irritating when the Americans, the White House, treat Vladimir Putin as though he's morally equivalent to Zelensky. I find that disgusting. It's not true. It's wrong. But at least in what they're doing, the Americans are staying solid. And they're staying solid. And Trump is staying solid. I think what Donald Trump needs to understand is, to get his Nobel Prize, to get this war over, as you said right at the beginning, they need to increase the pressure on Putin. They need to do it fast.
Since Donald Trump's election, we've seen a renewed movement in EU-UK relations, particularly around efforts to build a more unified European defense framework. Do you like this idea? I ask because you are known for your skepticism about Britain's bonds with the EU.
I've always been in favour of that, but I've always been in favour of European defence cooperation. But
Brexit was moving into the opposite direction.
Brexit was a legal. It was taking back control of our law, which is a very important thing to do for a democracy, in my view. And the military cooperation is a good idea. And the UK and Greece have extensive military cooperation. The best framework to do that is NATO. And actually, I mean, you talk about Trump, and whatever you say about him, he has persuaded the European countries
to spend more,
to increase their spending on defense. Greece is a hero. Greece, I think, is Europe at 5%.
It's above 3%.
It's definitely one of the, as a percentage, it's definitely one of the biggest in Europe, right?
That's right. In NATO, actually.
In NATO, I mean. And other countries have been way, way behind. Trump got the Greeks to do more. And got NATO to do more. And that is a good thing. Actually, he got the UK to do more. I mean, when I was in power, we had a plan to come up to 3% by 2020, and Labour weren't going to do that. But now I think they are going to do that. So you're seeing more defence cooperation now in Europe.
All right.
Far, far more. And look at it. I mean, NATO, you've got Finland and Sweden in NATO now.
Yeah. Turkey has been excluded from the US-led F-35 program and is now pushing to join the European Eurofighter consortium, with broader ambitions of integrating into Europe's security architecture. But the question remains, can Ankara be considered a trustworthy partner for Europe, especially in the sensitive domain of defense?
Look, Ankara is a very valuable NATO ally, very, very important NATO ally, and has been for many years, as has Greece. So, I think...
Turkey, by the way, had created some problems in the accession of Sweden and Finland in the NATO.
I remember I was there at the meetings, but we got through that. And both those, we smoothed that over.
Ahead of this interview, I asked ChatGPT whether Brexit would have happened without your contribution.
No.
Its answer was the following. Johnson's personal popularity and ability to communicate helped the Leave campaign gain credibility with mainstream voters. Many analysts believe his decision to back Leave tipped the balance. Do you agree?
I don't. No, I think it was the right thing to do. And Brexit was about taking back control of our laws. And there was one where immediately we had the pandemic. We were able to license, to approve all the COVID vaccines about weeks and weeks before the 27 EU countries. That meant we had the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe. That meant we came out of lockdown. I mean, Greece did a good job, by the way. I congratulate the Greeks on what you did. But we came out of lockdown faster than any other European country, and we had the fastest economic recovery. That was because we weren't in the single market. We weren't in the European Medicines Agency. So Brexit saved lives.
Allow me a joke. That's why you celebrated with the parties.
Yeah, well, that's a great exaggeration.
Maybe this is an argument.
It's not true. I mean, seriously, people who think it really isn't true. People who think that my team were having social parties, social events, it's total nonsense. I mean, anyway, it was what happened was that after Brexit, most people most Tory MPs weren't in favour of Brexit, right? And I had a lot of enemies. They found something to get me on. And there was a lot of as we came out of COVID, there was a lot after anxiety, after fear, anger comes, and that's what happened basically.
Have you ever had second thoughts about your decision to back Brexit?
No, I mean,
never.
No, because in fact I've become more and more convinced it was the right thing to do. I really think that democracy is very, very valuable. The ability to kick out of office the people who are ruling you is fundamental. The ability to choose the people who are ruling you is fundamental.
Britain was ruling itself within the EU.
No, because when the EU it's an interesting point, but when the EU passes a law, which it does the whole time, there is nothing the British Parliament can do. There is nothing the British Prime Minister can do. There is nothing that the 651 British MPs can do to remove that law. And it's like the law of the Medes.
So you're not supportive
it's like the law of the Medes and the Persians.
Of United States of Europe.
No, and I don't think, I bet the Greek people aren't either, really. You're a country of freedom.
It depends who you ask.
Do you want to, well, I mean, it's a new Ottoman Empire. Do you want to, really?
I don't think so.
Think of the spirit of Eleftherios, Venizelos. Think of freedom. Byron, the Isles of Greece.
One of the central promises of Brexit was curbing immigration. Yet, since leaving the EU, Britain has actually seen a rise in immigration from outside the Union. From that standpoint, was Brexit a failure?
No, total success. When I first in my first full year as Prime Minister, immigration fell to the lowest level for, 40 years almost. We then had a big bounce back after COVID because we had a lot of EU students returning as they were entitled to do because they're counted in a lot of international students are counted in the immigration numbers, and we had various other things. But we took back control. Back to my point, we have the legal power, the sovereignty, to decide how many migrants we want. Greece, for better or worse, you have 380 million people who could and anybody living in the European Union who can come to Greece. And you have no legal way of stopping that. No legal way of stopping that. We now have the power to do that. If we want zero legal immigration, we can have zero. But the problem we've had is that the popularity of Britain is so intense that we have these illegal migrants coming, particularly in boats across the Channel.
So you think you have faced the problem you described? I
think the problem is the thing the British people don't like is the sight of these boats coming across the Channel with illegal immigrants. Now, you guys have actually done a good job with illegal immigrants. Greece is, I think, it's very controversial, I think, but
illegal is illegal either in the EU or outside the EU.
But there are tactics that you've used in Lesbos or wherever, but I think, and most of my understanding, that we find very difficult in the English Channel because the Channel is a much rougher body of water than the Mediterranean. Well, that part of the Mediterranean, and so bumping the boats, that kind of thing, we haven't been able to do, honestly, and that's made it very, very hard. But I admire what Greece has done. We wouldn't be able to do it in the UK.
At the same time, the British economy is under strain, reflected in a precarious fiscal position. Do you think Brexit has hurt the UK's economic prospects, or do you believe the challenges are coincidental in their timing?
I think that Brexit helped because I just explained we had the fastest economic recovery from of all G7 countries, which was just before I left office, because we'd had the fastest rollout. And what I think, if you look at what's happened in the last year or so, I'm a conservative, right? I think the Labour government has made a series of the socialists have made some disastrous mistakes. They taxed and they spent so much that, the problem we've got now is that company directors, wealth creators, investors in the UK are leaving in huge numbers because of Labour. And so we're now coming up to another budget where Labour is having to find more money and more tax because of the mistakes that they made last time. We got into a kind of doom loop, and which is like the 1970s all over again.
Was it better the previous years with the Conservative Party?
Much better, yeah, definitely. So, we now have interest rate on British gilts, the highest for 30 years, right? We have when I left office, unemployment was at its lowest level for, I think, 50 years. Youth unemployment at its lowest level for 45 years.
When was Rishi Sunak in office?
He was shortly after me.
When you were in Downing Street, you welcomed Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis.
I did, yes.
Who pressed the case for the return of the Parthenon Marbles. What was his argument then, and how did he frame Greece's request?
Look, I always had a very good relationship with Kyriakos Mitsotakis, and I think he's a great guy, and really always enjoyed my conversations with him. And I gotta say, I fully understand why the Prime Minister of Greece will raise this issue. And honestly, I really do understand the feelings and the sensitivities in Greece about it. I do. And, when I was younger, I sympathized very much. But I've got to tell you that there is a problem. I became Mayor of London in 2008. And I found out that we did a big tourist campaign after the financial crash. The single biggest tourist attraction in London is the British Museum. London, when I was there, was the most visited city on earth, and the biggest attraction was the British Museum. And my worry is that if you rip out the heart of the museum with the Elgin marbles, then you create a huge precedent. You have to send back the stuff to Iraq, to Nigeria, to Egypt.
So it's a matter of logistics, you mean?
It's a disaster. It's a cultural disaster for the museum. So what I'm trying to tell you, Vassilis, is I'm very, very sorry, but this for us is also an incredibly difficult issue. And that's what I said to Kyriakos.
On that note, you'll remember that Rishi Sunak refused to meet Mitsotakis during his official visit to London.
That I think is nuts, but that I don't understand that.
Right. Looking ahead, how do you see the political future of the Conservative Party?
I think we'll come back. We always do. We're the oldest and most successful political party in Europe. Even more successful than PASOK. Considerably more successful.
I don't think this is possible.
And Neo-Democratia even. I think we will come back strongly.
And what about your own?
200 years, literally, most of the last 200 years, the Conservatives have been the party.
And what about your own role? Do you still have one to play?
I have a very happy life trying to pay for a new kitchen for my wife and other projects. So,
thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you.